Well, it is the Pittsburgh Penguins postgame. Hi, I'm Dan Kingerski on the Pittsburgh Hockey Now platforms. You will notice I'm in the home studio because this is how it kind of broke down Sunday night with the awkward start time. I had to go straight from the arena. As soon as I finished the report card, I ran to WPXI. We did the final word with Alan Saunders and Donnie Football. And then I came home and I realized I was wearing all black. So I changed just for you. The Pittsburgh Penguins lose 5-3 to the New York Rangers on Sunday. And you and I are going to have a couple go-rounds over the next couple of weeks because I'm going to tell you straight up, there are a whole lot of people, a whole lot of things kind of exhausting old Dan's patience, and we try to explain things. We try to show the complete picture. And there's just right now, because the Penguins are losing, and quite frankly, at this point, to even get into the playoff hunt would be an absolute miracle. They literally would need, of their next 23 games, the equivalent of 18 and a half wins to get to 92 points. Yeah, that ain't happening. Not now, not ever. I mean, think about going 19-4 down the stretch. Now, the team you saw for most of three periods on Sunday conceivably could do it. The Penguins dominated. The Penguins thoroughly kicked the Rangers from pillar to post. They busted a couple of chairs over their head, suplexed them onto the concrete floor, flying elbow off the top rope, and yet you still knew what was coming. It was a Vince McMahon squash match with the predictable twist ending. One mistake. A bouncing puck around the yellow at P.O. Joseph's feet. He kind of fumbles with it. Off to the races goes J.T. Miller on a 2-on-1. He buries it with 3 minutes to go in the second period. And despite the Penguins' utter domination, they now trailed 2-1 in the final minutes of the second period and after 40 minutes. Let me tell you exactly how thorough the Penguins' domination was. They were out shooting them at the midway point, 26-5, maybe 25-5. I'm not sure if they adjusted for the one shot or not. 26-5. High danger chances were 7-2 in favor of the Penguins. The scoring chances were 18 or 19-8. It was a beatdown, except here's what we're going to talk about on the Penguins postgame. Here's the Penguins' biggest problem. They're not that good. Think about what the Penguins are trying to, with duct tape, chicken wire, and bubble gum, are patching together an NHL lineup. Removing Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin, who were both very good on Saturday and Sunday. Removing Rickard Rakell. Think about who the rest of the Penguins' top nine is. They're trying to get goals and offensive digits on the scoreboard with the likes of Anthony Beauvillier, Danton Heinen, Cody Glass, Philip Tomasino, Kevin Hayes. Now, those guys can chip in, but if you're relying on them, if you're expecting them to chip in on a regular basis, you're going to be sorely disappointed. And so the Penguins were indeed sorely disappointed on Sunday. Mike Sullivan was correct when he told the guys, if they play that game a lot of times, they're going to win a lot of games. In theory, he's correct. But in addition to the puck domination, and I'll get into the twist of the Penguins system that Mike Sullivan unleashed on Peter Laviolette and the New York Rangers. You don't want to hear this, but listen, I'm going to tell you all the stuff you need to know, not what you want to hear. Sullivan had an X's and O's twist that took the stick right out of the New York Rangers' hands. In fact, I'll tell you about it now as we kind of transition into the Penguins' biggest problem. Sullivan, what he did was had the F3 swing high. Instead of playing that low to high game that the Penguins have been playing for quite a while, where the forwards get into the corners, try to draw the defenseman to them, then get the puck to the defenseman at the top of the zone and blast away, get rebounds, lose pucks, and so on and so forth. That low to high game was on hold temporarily. Sorry, I'm bumping the camera. Instead, what Sullivan did with that F3, the high forward, was he had them play high. So you had three people high in the zone, although sometimes the defenseman would, P.O. Joseph especially, would become that third stick and swing to the mid wall or even low. Joseph played unbelievably well, except for that mistake. Oh, you feel for the guy because he had a brilliant game. I mean, he was doing some things. He was out playing Chris Letang and Erik Karlsson Sunday, but that bouncing puck along the yellow. So with that F3 coming back to the zone, it was that high forward's job to get in the way of the New York forecheck. Worked brilliantly. By being basically a speed bump or an obstacle course for the oncoming forecheck, that provided the Penguins defensemen time and space to go back, to get the puck, and flip the direction coming at the Rangers. So the Penguins, by just kind of interfering a little bit, creating an extra layer for the forecheckers to get around, now we're able to rush. They were rushing at the Rangers. They were getting into the zone cleanly because the Rangers were turning around and chasing them. And the Penguins were able to create offense from the corners to the goal. Now, when the defensemen were touching the puck, they were touching the puck at the mid-wall, not the blue line. They were getting the puck down low, first shift of the game. After, I think it was Anthony Beauvillier. Of course, the very structured and disciplined Beauvillier was the one to do it. Comes back, interrupts the Rangers' forecheck. Here come the Penguins. It was P.O. Joseph swinging down into the corner with the puck, out in front for Rickard Rakell and Sidney Crosby. Both of them just missed. I think Shesterkin made the save on Rakell, although there was a mass of bodies there. Maybe not. And Crosby chips the rebound just over the crossbar. It was brilliance. So if I took umbrage with you on Twitter or the cavalcade of just obstinately stubborn people who aren't listening or paying attention, who want to spout narratives, regardless of evidence or reality, oh, it's Mike Sullivan's system. The Penguins are out shooting the Rangers 26-5. They outshot the Rangers 19-4 in the second period. And it wasn't like the Penguins weren't getting great chances. They were getting them by the bushel. If you're going to blame the Penguins system, you kind of have to... I mean, it was mind-boggling to me to be on social media Sunday evening and seeing the tropes tossed with such self-confident assertions. It's like, my goodness, go smack yourself in the head with a tack hammer. Because the Penguins did everything right on Sunday. They got some shoddy goaltending. Joel Blomqvist had a rough day, just like Alex Nedeljkovic did on Saturday. Realized that Nedeljkovic allowed 3 goals in, I think, 9, or maybe they adjusted it to 11 shots on goal. It's kind of brutal. And that's what we're going to talk about now. Here's the next phase that you're going to have to understand. You have to properly set your expectations and your viewing for what comes next. The Penguins are undoubtedly going to start putting some younger players in the lineup. You're going to see probably Vasily Ponomarev, maybe Sam Poulin very soon. Emil Bemstrom is a strong candidate to come back up, but also Joel Blomqvist getting more starts. Now, here's the problem with that. Player development means something. You can't just toss them on the ice like Jack and the magic beans and expect the beanstalk to grow. It doesn't work that way. The learning is a process, regressions and progressions, high points and low points and frustrating points. Blomqvist is kind of going through that now, quite frankly. Mike Sullivan in the post game said, listen, he's an athletic guy. We're still very excited by him. He can do better than he did Sunday, and he certainly can. The Rangers kind of picked on the glove hand a little bit on Sunday. The first 3 goals. Blomqvist was going down too early on Sunday. He was giving lots of net and going down. That's a bad combination. Of the Rangers' 4 goals with a goalie in the net, all 4 were kind of stoppable. I'm not saying they were softies. I'm saying on an average night, a goalie probably gets 1, if not 3 of them. Right? So that's going to be the challenge for the Penguins and the challenge for you, quite frankly. It's not Mike Sullivan's system. And now that the young players are going to be integrated, you have to be patient. You have to understand that their learning doesn't end when they get to the NHL. I mean, they've got to do a ton of learning. Please don't echo my least favorite phrase in the English language. Let's see what they can do. I mean, I've been to Wilkes-Barre how many times and reported back and written thousands and thousands of words and so on and so forth. We kind of know what they can do and where they're at. If a player comes up to the NHL and gets dumped into the deep end before they are ready, it's counterproductive. You might lose that player. You have a better chance of losing that player than you do of gaining that player. So you have to be patient, and it has to be a process of getting them to the NHL. So you're not going to see Rutger McGroarty and Ville Koivunen, and Tristan Brose all come up just because the Penguins suck. And, well, the Penguins suck anyway, so how much worse can it be is not a good answer. Terrible answer, because it can, in fact, be worse. Think of Matt Nieto. And you're like, Nieto does nothing. You might be correct that he doesn't add a whole lot to the lineup, but he doesn't take away from it either. The details of Nieto's game are great. Now, imagine a player who is struggling to figure out the NHL whose details aren't great yet. You're not going to learn the details at the NHL. You learn the details and the smaller points at the AHL level. Some players like Sidney Crosby are magically born gifted with this somehow sixth sense and can play at 18, 19 years old. Most players are not like that. Most players have to learn, and they have to learn the appropriate effort and all of those sorts of things that if you bring them to the NHL too quickly, you're going to have a bad time. So that's what I'm trying to impart to so many of you. Just because a player is younger, maybe even hungrier, doesn't necessarily make the team better. You have to bring them along in their own time, not your time. And just because you don't know what they can do doesn't mean the team doesn't, or I don't. Ask me. I'll tell you. All right, that is the Penguins post game, because y'all were just killing me on Twitter. You were making me want to just get out the cattle prod and line a few people up just to make examples of. I kid. Kind of. So from the home studio Sunday evening after the Penguins 5-3 loss, here is the standings, what you probably need to know. I already talked about the standings. Yeah, essentially 18 and a half wins. So a couple more losses, and they are essentially kaput. I think that can be a good thing, because then you are going to see Ponomarev, Sam Poulin, and Owen Pickering, or maybe the Russian defenseman they picked up off of waivers from Utah. You're going to see a little bit more lineup experimentation from the players who are ready enough or have enough details in their game that they can learn no more down in the minors. Okay, now I'm done. Follow me on Twitter at @DanKingerski. Yell at me on the comment section of Pittsburgh Hockey Now, or believe me now and hear me later. All right, have fun, kids. We'll talk soon.